Deep beneath the surface of the Gulf of Mexico, there's something that shouldn't exist. A lake, sitting on the ocean floor, with its own shoreline, its own waves, and its own separate body of water. All of it submerged nearly a mile under the ocean itself. These formations are called brine pools, and despite being surrounded on all sides by regular seawater, they behave almost like an entirely separate environment. The reason comes down to salt. Brine pools form when underground salt deposits, left behind from ancient seabeds that dried up millions of years ago, dissolve into water seeping through the seafloor. This creates an extremely dense, highly salted pool of water, several times saltier than the ocean around it. Because this brine is so much denser than regular seawater, it doesn't mix or dissolve upward into the water column above it. Instead, it settles into low points on the seafloor and pools there, forming what looks, remarkably, like a lake or river sitting on top of the ocean floor, complete with a visible surface, distinct edges, and even small waves that ripple across it when disturbed. Researchers using submersibles have filmed these formations directly, and the footage is genuinely strange to look at. Because the brine is denser than the surrounding seawater, a submersible's camera can actually see a clear boundary line, almost like a shoreline, where the regular ocean water meets the surface of the brine pool below it. What makes brine pools even more remarkable is what they do to marine life. The water inside these pools is typically many times saltier than normal seawater and often contains high concentrations of dissolved methane or hydrogen sulfide, making it toxic to most marine organisms. Fish, crabs, and other creatures that swim into a brine pool, sometimes chasing prey or simply by accident, can become disoriented or die shortly after contact, since their bodies aren't adapted to survive that level of salinity or toxicity. In some documented cases, researchers have found the preserved remains of fish and crustaceans resting along the edges of these pools, essentially pickled by the extreme salt content, sometimes remaining visibly intact for extended periods because the environment is inhospitable even to the bacteria that would normally cause decomposition. Despite being toxic to most life, brine pools aren't lifeless. Along their edges, specialized ecosystems have been discovered, built around organisms like mussels and tubeworms that have evolved to survive in this extreme, oxygen-poor, high-salinity environment, often relying on chemosynthesis rather than sunlight to produce energy, similar to life found near deep-sea hydrothermal vents. These edge ecosystems represent some of the most extreme examples of life on Earth adapting to conditions that would be lethal to nearly everything else in the ocean. Brine pools have been documented in several locations around the world, but some of the most extensively studied are in the Gulf of Mexico, where researchers have mapped pools spanning significant areas of the seafloor, some large enough to be classified as genuine underwater lakes rather than small pools. Scientists continue to study these formations partly because they offer insight into extreme environments that may resemble conditions found elsewhere in the solar system, similar to the reasoning behind studying Antarctica's bloodfalls, since environments this hostile to standard biology can help researchers understand what kind of life might be possible in similarly extreme conditions elsewhere. A mile beneath the surface, in complete darkness, there are lakes with their own shorelines, sitting inside the ocean itself, toxic to almost everything that touches them, and yet somehow still supporting life along their edges. It's one of the clearest reminders that the deep sea doesn't always follow the rules the rest of the ocean does.